Hey guys, it's Greg Raymer here with the Real Estate Update. I want to thank everybody for watching today. In today's interview, we have Wes Durant. He's a local real estate agent. He's very good at what he does, and one of the niches he's gotten into is off-market properties in general and multifamily properties in particular. So Wes, thank you for coming by today. We appreciate you sitting down and having a conversation with us. Tell us how things have been lately. You've been staying pretty busy?
Very busy. There's still a lot of money floating around out there, so people are still looking to invest. You have to dig a little deeper to find a, opportunity than what you probably had to in the last year or two with interest rates rising. So there's been some changes, but, ultimately we're in a good area. Bowling Green, Elizabethtown along I-65 corridor it's booming.
Yeah, so that's obvious. If you're from around this area, you know that for sure. And give me just a little bit of background. I know you're from Bowling Green. You and I went to the same high school, not together, but the same high school. It's been a couple decades apart on that. But tell me about your background and what you did and how you actually got into real estate in general and this particular off-market property niche in particular.
Well, I got into real estate when I went through a divorce and realized that, hey, I probably want to do something else with my life outside of insurance and investments. Turned out to be the best thing for me, but my background came from playing college basketball and high school basketball at Warren Central, played college at Middle Tennessee, coached 2 years at Southeastern Illinois under a coach named Todd Franklin, who's one of the best coaches in college basketball. Was able to learn a lot from that, but my real sales experience that I learned was from Northwestern Mutual and Mass Mutual, selling insurance and investments. You get kicked in the teeth a lot selling life insurance and disability insurance. Nobody wants to talk about those things. However, I learned how to take rejection, and I learned how to, persevere, because again, nobody wants to talk about those things.
Yeah. Well, I know a little bit about what you do and how you do it, and I admire you for your work ethic. I know your the techniques you guys use are, contacting folks and just inquiring as to, people that own property as to whether they'd ever entertain the idea, I guess, of either selling what they've got or buying additional properties, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it, and reaching out, making sure, hey, if they're not a seller, that they might be a buyer for something. So,
right.
Yeah.
So tell me exactly what, in your opinion, is the definition of an off-market property? What makes it stand out differently?
An off-market property is one that's not going to be advertised to the public. There's many reasons why they're not advertised to the public. Could be that they don't like real estate agents and you have to break through that barrier. Could be that they don't want the public knowing they're selling because they have a lot of relationships with real estate agents. Could be just that you were the first person to contact them and ask them, and they didn't know about how to go through the process of selling a property of that magnitude. And, frankly, you don't see a lot of higher, $1 million plus properties on the market. So those are that's pretty much how, we contact them, and that's how they decide whether, if they want to use a real estate agent or not. Most of them will use you. It's just a different type of scenario. They don't like paying 6% commissions. That's another thing,
right, that
people, I guess, real estate agents.
A lot of things revolve around money, don't they?
Yes, exactly. And these are business people, so
yeah,
it's a different.
What do you find to be the case? They just basically don't want to pay the higher commission, or they don't want other real estate agents that you're familiar with. They got a big circle. What is usually the case?
They're business people, so it's a little bit of both.
A little bit of everything.
Most real estate agents have been taught the 6%, everything's 6%. Well, these people have spent, taking their time to invest, or taking their time and money to find that property, locate that property, invest in that property. And, when they've invested, $1 million or $2 million or held a property for 20 years, they feel that their value is more than 94%, that they've brought to the table, and that real estate agent is just walking in there and making a sale and 6% of a $3 million property. that's $180,000. So they don't really want to pay $180,000 of their equity. They just prefer to keep the property.
Right.
So I think you have to figure out a negotiating line to where, hey, it makes sense for both parties, and that's but yeah. But then they don't like real estate agents a lot of times because
That could be a part of it.
yeah, I mean it's not always, but yeah.
They're shrewd business people for a
Yes.
reason, and usually when you're successful in that regard, you've been kind of frugal along the way and cut costs and made money and saved money, and you know the value of a dollar probably more than anybody because that's your lifeline, right?
Yeah, well, a lot of them came from, a lot of business people who are successful, who have been successful, came from nothing. You know, so that's where, you know, hey, they think that they're, you know, they've earned that right to, you know, have that property and, you know, sell it at what they want to sell it for.
Right.
So
Tell us a little bit about what advantage that a shrewd, educated investor can get from working with an agent like yourself. I know it seems kind of obvious in some regards, but tell us some of the things that you see about it.
First of all, I mean, they're locked in on their business. So their time is the most valuable asset that they have. It's the most valuable asset any of us have. So, you know, I guess you could call it bird dogging from a standpoint of how I got started is I just found some clients who told me some things they wanted, and I went out and hunted, and I like to hunt. So that's kind of my niche is, you know, I can bring that value, and I also knowing what I'm looking at.
Right. Have you ever been surprised with some of the investors you work with? They don't really know what their property is worth maybe quite as well as they should, and they're a little bit off on their valuation?
Depends on how long ago they bought it.
Right. I can see that.
You know, if they've owned it for 30 years, they're kind of in the retirement range.
Just collecting checks, not really valuing and looking at the latest values.
They haven't done the updates and things that they needed to get it to the peak of market value. You know, it's one of those things too. I like to let people know that hey, there's multiple ways to work with. It's obviously the most efficient way to get the most value out of your property. Many a times can be listing it, not always, but it can be listing it.
Right.
Because you get more eyes on it. You get more realtors. I find that realtors, you know, don't always answer their phone, which makes it very hard to work to get the most out of your property. So finding a realtor who's actually willing to answer their phone and take the phone calls and, you know, call people back, that's kind of been one of the things that I think has allowed me that when I do list a property to bring the most value is I always answer my phone.
Sure.
It's one of the easiest ways to be successful in real estate.
Just do the simple things and do them well. Customer service, answer your phone, do what you say you're going to do.
Work 8 hours a day. You know, don't take it as a part-time job. It's a career and a full-time job.
It is legit.
You know, but you know, you have to take it as that and actually put 40, 50, 60 hours of work in. I remember I think when I first started with you 3 years ago and COVID hit, things kind of changed for me because I was on the last little leg before I had 2 things under contract. I was about, you know, one of those went away and had one thing before I could pay it. You know, I wouldn't be able to pay for my house,
Right.
mortgage.
Right.
And thank God that went through, but I was tired of living paycheck to paycheck. So I just started working 80, 90 hours a week out of my house during COVID and just start calling until, you know, things started popping up.
Everybody knew during COVID that you can indeed work out of a home office, right?
You can. It's, you know, you definitely can. And it was probably a beneficial thing for me at the time. And yeah. So
sometimes a small child or a dog may make that a little bit of a challenge, but you just adjust accordingly, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So what do you think in your particular niche is probably consistently the most challenging aspect that you see about trying to get business done and deals closed?
Knowing how to talk to people.
Yeah.
Knowing these are business people and their time is precious. So you really got to understand how not to waste their time. And
some of them don't like small talk and they want to get right to the point.
Small talk can be good if you get them going, but don't let it be about yourself.
Yeah.
It needs to be about them, but ultimately, you need to focus on, hey, so somebody told me a long time ago, when you write an email or a letter, write it and then read it and take out half of it.
Right.
It's the same with conversations. You talk less and you let them do the talking. And then once you've proven that you know what you're doing, then you can talk more.
Yeah.
But,
well, that's like one of those famous books, How to Win Friends and Influence People, that always let other people talk about themselves and ask them about themselves, because that's the thing they want to hear about most. And I guess there's that old rule I told my two sons, that God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. You need to listen twice as much as you talk. So anyway,
I guess the other 2 things I would say is, one, try to be creative and find you mentors.
Right.
Find your mentors that you can go talk to, that you can ask, hey, what do you think of this idea? Or, hey, what should I be doing? Kind of get some feedback, because mentors are key. I mean, don't just find one, but find multiple ones.
That's a really underrated subject matter nowadays that you just don't hear a lot of people talk about or do, is getting a good mentor in the area that you want to excel in, or that you have a great deal of interest in, and let you, just hopefully they'll let you pick their brain and ask questions and stand there in their business and watch what they do and how they do it. So, it's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up. But I guess the next question would be, if someone is like yourself, looking to get in the business, what advice would you give? You touched on something earlier, talking about not being afraid of rejection and working hard. I think those are A1 and 1A and 1B then, right?
Yeah, not being afraid of rejection. You always got to ask for what you want. If you don't ask, you can't get what you want. It's just like, hey, if you see the pretty girl out there at the dog park, do you go up? That's how I met my wife. But anyways,
that's an inside.
And it was
story.
It was a terrible line, but it worked because ultimately we ended up getting married.
What was the line you used on her?
I'm not telling you. It was really bad. But anyways, if you see the pretty girl out at the dog park, do you go up and talk to her? Or do you sit there and you go home and regret not talking to her? And I just, I don't want to be that person who has those regrets in my life. So
I know you can relate to this saying from who was it said it? Michael Jordan, that said you never make a shot that you don't take in the first place, right?
Yeah.
Or something along those lines. So, what is if you had to describe the main method of you guys getting your leads and so forth? I know like any business, when you're in it for a while, people know you're in it, and they, word of mouth is and referrals are a great lead source and money maker. But what has been your main lead source that you get on getting these type properties?
Now it's more referrals. Before it was just driving by properties, picking up the phone and calling.
Right.
Finding that's pretty much how. But before it was, now it's referrals that people, see how hard I work, and that, hey, I'm at the office trying to be the first one there every morning.
Right.
And, a lot of times can be the last to leave or the last to get home. But again, or, hey, I'll go on a 3-hour road trip to, and get back, and then continue the work that I didn't get done. So,
right.
It's just, Northwestern Mutual and Mass Mutual, they had, when people are happy with, what you provide, they always ask for what you want. So you ask for referrals. But you have to do it strategically. It's not just coming out and asking for referrals, but there's a system that, everybody can learn. There's lots of books out there, one book I'd recommend people reading, is Master the Art of Selling by Tom Hopkins.
Right.
It's a really good book to help people.
That is.
With sales.
Yeah. I know we talked to one of the other agents about his niche, and he said they do a lot of mailers, but my impression with you is you don't really mail, but you're either calling or texting or something along those lines, right?
I'll go knock on somebody's door.
You're a door knocker.
I actually, there was one sale, we couldn't get through to the guy, and I just walked in his office and he happened to be there, and next thing you know, it was one of our team's bigger and better sales, just because
You were bold enough to do that.
Found out, I heard through the grapevine that he was trying to sell a property and he had failed selling it, and I was like, well, maybe I can, help him out here. But he actually called him 2 times, and he told me it was the wrong number.
He thought you were just a telemarketer.
I knew it wasn't the wrong number, so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna get a hold of this guy. Sure enough,
I'm gonna keep at it using one technique or another until I get my objective, and it paid off for you, didn't it?
Yep. Sometimes one method will work better than another, and every person is different. So
right,
that's all Coach K philosophy.
Right.
Every player is different, so you gotta coach every player different.
Good observation. Well,
and I don't like Duke, by the way. Just
well, I think we've touched on about everything I wanted to talk to you about today. If somebody watching this wants to maybe get a hold of you or ask you a question about off-market properties, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
My cell phone number, 270-320-8474.
Okay.
If I don't pick up, leave a message, or I'll probably call you back even if you don't. But yeah.
A man that definitely keeps his cell phone on him at all times and uses it. Probably wears out the battery by the mid-afternoon, right?
And after 7 o'clock, I don't call people back unless it's emergency.
Right. That's a good rule to have. Well, we appreciate you coming by today, and we thank everybody for coming and listening to the Real Estate Update today. If you have any questions or anything, direct message me on the site or email me at greg@usahousepartners.com, and we'll talk to you next time on the Real Estate Update. Thanks.